I was talking to you earlier about this amazing and very successful South Australian company, which is called Rising Sun Pictures. The guy who founded it, co-founded it, is the CEO as well. We got him on the line. Tony Clark, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Jeremy. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for coming on the show.
Our pleasure. Good to hear from you.
Now, tell me how old the company is.
Well, our company, I think, is now 29 years old, so we're in our 30th year, which is quite an achievement.
It certainly is.
Where we started, yes.
Where did you start?
Well, we were all working for, there were four of us originally, and we were working for another company, and that sort of came to an end. And so we needed to figure out what to do back in 1995, and we all gathered around this idea of pursuing computer graphics in filmmaking. Mm. And we thought that was going to be an incredible growth area into the future, because at the time Jurassic Park was just coming out, and it was really sort of sending out some signs that was going to be huge. So we got together at the Rising Sun Inn, and we sat around there on a Chesterfield with a beer. And
actually at the Rising Sun Inn?
That's right. We were sitting on the Chesterfield there. No, that's the original story of it. So it's quite appropriate. So that's where the name came from. We sat around and we were dreaming up what we would call it, and we thought, Rising Sun Pictures, because we had no other ideas at the moment.
And what was the first project?
Oh, the first project was a television commercial for the Electricity Trust of South Australia, where a lamp was hopping around the house looking at all the things that could be powered by electricity. And it was really important for us, because it was quite a large commercial funded by a local agency, and obviously funded by ETSA at the time. Mm. And it allowed us to build the business or to start the business off, because there were four of us, and we had no income and we had no equipment. Mm. And that basically bootstrapped the business. So it was quite a pivotal piece of work for us.
I remember going back, probably into the late 70s and early 80s, South Australia really did have quite a grip on a lot of advertising things. We were kind of groundbreaking. I remember Street Remley, he specialised in radio commercials and sound and so forth, and people would come from all over Australia, if not the world, to get him to work on their project. And we did the same. Right. We did the same thing to television, or for television in a way. So, have times got tougher, or times got more difficult?
I don't know. Look, times always get tougher. I think the loss of advertising here is a really sad thing, and that tends to follow the presence of head offices. And so we had major accounts head office here, like Mitsubishi, who were investing huge amounts in production, and that enabled a whole lot of skills to come up across the broader production industry. So it's sad to see them go, but I guess in the area that we're working, this is an industry that didn't exist at all in that time, and so we basically gave this industry and put it up, and our company is doing.
Because your company not only deals with Australia, you deal with the world, don't you?
That's right. Yeah.
You've got projects everywhere.
So all our clients, we're not dependent on the local presence of agencies or even local filmmakers. We still work on local films, and it's great that what we do internationally helps us with local filmmakers as well, because we can bring incredible value to local projects and Australian projects because of our international work. But no, most of our clients are out of Los Angeles these days, and all of those people are employed principally on work that comes out of Los Angeles and major projects through companies like Disney and Warner Brothers and Netflix and others. So it's a truly global industry, and I think an industry that didn't exist. There's probably 1,000 people here in Adelaide now supported that are related to what we do as a result of that early work.
Yeah. No, brilliant. Les Ellicus is with me at the dining room table, so he might jump in and ask you a question.
And Tony, I will right now. I guess you guys are the Australian pioneers of an industry like Zuckerberg, Gates and Jobs may have been back in the 70s.
There were basically, at the time, there weren't really any companies in the world doing this. It was principally focused on businesses that were operating out of California, specifically out of Northern California and Los Angeles to some extent. And in the time that the business has been around, it really has evolved to being a global industry, and we've contributed to that, obviously, by doing our work here. But in terms of Australia, we were very early. There were 2 or 3 companies that that were working and touching on that, and there was a little window that opened up of opportunity, and we managed to walk through that door, and here we are.
If you were going to put a name on your specialty, what is it? Is it special effects?
It's called visual effects, and so special effects tends to capture where things are done on set. So where people blow things up practically, or set things on fire, or make mechanical rigs to achieve things. Ours tends to be done after the fact, and so our work is done in a computer typically, where we join together multiple things that have been photographed, or sometimes things that we create from 3D animation, or using some of our machine learning techniques. We might create things and we pull them together in a computer and deliver the final result. So that's the sort of difference. Ours is visual effects and theirs is special effects. But they tend to work hand in hand.
And your progress, Tony, as an organisation and business must be greatly enhanced by the development of microprocessor technology and hard drive capacities, all that. So that would be essential in your work, wouldn't it?
That's right. I mean, everything that we do is based in computers, and our business of 330 to 350 people at the moment, we would have north of 1,000 computers, and we probably run about 20 petabytes worth of storage. So a terabyte is 1,000 gigabytes. A petabyte is 1,000 terabytes.
God.
So there's a huge, it is a huge investment in infrastructure, and it's all based here in Adelaide also.
And the drawing of staff, Tony, does South Australia or Australia produce enough techies that keep your organisation fulfilled, or do you have to import from overseas?
You don't tend to find this talent here, because the talent is quite sophisticated, and to get experience you need to have worked around the world. When we started, we had to import people from interstate and overseas, but more recently, one of the partners at Rising Sun, one of the original founders at Rising Sun, started a partnership with the local university at the University of South Australia, and we now run courses with them that develops local talent. And so we both employ from locally, because the pool has grown over time, but we import internationally. So we'll bring people from Australia or from around the world that come here, and that's great because it brings experience and world-class experience. But more importantly, we train every year over 100 people through our partnership with the University of South Australia that grows the size of the talent pool in total. And so we've been building over the last probably 8 to 10 years a local talent base here in Adelaide, where hundreds of people have been developed through that. And they work not only at Rising Sun Pictures, they're working at the other businesses in South Australia, and they work at companies internationally and nationally.
No, you should be
it's an incredible program.
You should be very, very proud of that.
Absolutely.
My youngest son, got a job with, I can't remember what they were called, Mr. X or Mr. X.
Yes, Mr. X, yeah.
Yeah, and he worked on quite a few projects, and eventually when we got to see them together, he would point out to me that didn't happen.
Yes.
One of the ones was the movie about the kids that got caught in the cave. And
yes.
We had a South Australian go over there and rescue them. And
that's right.
Well, most of it was a
great story.
Most of it was apparently created in a studio, which I find absolutely amazing.
So they would have built sets up in the stages for it, and they would have filmed on those stages. But there are parts where they're underwater that you can't just film in any practical way. You can shoot some kind of things underwater, but building an underwater cave with depth in an actual soundstage is just beyond. That's the kind of thing where visual effects really does play well, because you can create things that are just impractical to build.
And during the week, Tony, Flinders University opened up a new facility. I think they spent something like $280 million on a 10-storey building, which is just behind my home at Bellevue Heights.
Yes.
I know your business is mainly entertainment, but do you dovetail into medical imaging type of activities?
We haven't really had the opportunity to work in the medical space. We do things that are adjacent to visualization generally. And so we have had conversations with companies like Saab and other local defence providers around ways to participate together. But we tend to be so busy on the work that we do with our films, because I think last year we did 23 films.
23?
And these were all, gigantic things. I even forget the names these days, which is tragic.
Well, I know you worked.
I know
you did stuff for Harry Potter.
Yes.
And that was amazing, because you look at the screen and you say, I can't believe my eyes. How did they do that?
Yes. Yeah, and so we did the first project we did for Harry Potter was the Goblet of Fire, and we actually got to do the actual Goblet of Fire. And at the time, making fire in a computer was nearly impossible. It was a brand new technique, and we applied some really local South Australian great minds to that were creating digital fire. These days, we create digital fire every day. It's really very normal, and that's what happens in what we do. Is that things that are difficult, they're seen occasionally in films, but then over time they become very, very accessible. And some of that you mentioned before, the growth of technology and hard drives and compute power and things, that really underpins what becomes possible. So the impossible today will be something that's on our phones in 3 years' time.
Can you patent any of these innovations that you uniquely come up with?
Well, we have some really incredible work that we've been doing that we started with the Australian Institute for Machine Learning, and we've built on the shoulders of that, and we have our own in-house team working on that these days. And it's not so much patentable as unique, and we trademark things, and so we built a platform that we called Revise, which is our machine learning platform, and it does the most incredible things. Everyone will be familiar with deepfakes, but deepfakes don't look particularly good. This is like next level technology for making for working with likeness, where we can create a character completely digitally that is speaking and is imperceptibly, imperceptible from the original performer in there. And so we have some really interesting videos that you can come and have a look at one day, but it demonstrates how you can create things and performance and reality which just isn't there. And so the digital human has always been the difficult thing, but we can't really patent that because it's built on the shoulders of existing IP and research which has been done in machine learning.
Is there a significant danger, though, that we're ultimately, not just your technology, but others, we're going to, through AI, dispense with human beings altogether?
I don't know about that. I feel like I guess we consider AI more of as an enabling technology where you can do things that you couldn't practically do other ways. Like our industry has always been advanced by technology, and so computers have got faster as well, and that's made what was impossible 20 years ago a daily occurrence today, like fire, digital fire. The same will be true of AI, where what we've done with our artificial intelligence and our machine learning tools has been to create tools and put them in the hands of artists to create creative outcomes that they wouldn't otherwise have been able to do. And some of those outcomes are incredibly subtle, but by putting them into a zone where they become affordable for filmmakers, we just help to enhance the creative experience of the film.
I guess you can save yourself significant amounts of money by not actually blowing up a set, but you can just make it look like it's been blown up.
That's right. Well, that's been our stock in trade for about 20 years now. Is doing things that are just too expensive.
You don't necessarily kill the actor or damage them. You can make it look like they're...
Yeah, but
that's right. Well,
it's quite amazing.
It is considered bad form to kill the actors.
Even if you're ever so tempted.
Yes.
Has anyone ever walked through the door with a script or an idea or a scenario and said, "Can we do this?" and you've been stumped? Is there actually, nothing you can't do?
I would have said 10 to 15 years ago, there were areas of what we do that were unachievable. And I now believe that everything that you could imagine can be achieved. And amazing. So it's really, but it ultimately becomes a conversation about talent and technology and ultimately money, because if you throw enough of those elements at a problem, you can solve most things. And so like 10 years ago, digital humans and digital performance was impossible. People were trying and they were pushing the boundaries, and we saw that with a number of projects out there where they recreated characters that had died and were sort of being reincorporated into films. And that was hard, but they always never quite looked right. And I think we've crossed that boundary now. Certainly at Rising Sun, we've crossed that boundary really comprehensively, and we can make people and digital characters look entirely real. I guess these days everything is possible. It's just time, talent, tools, and money.
And I guess movies that Jeremy and I would have grown up with, like Forbidden Planet with Robbie the Robot, which looked artificial, now could be made to be look quite realistic. Well, not quite
Absolutely.
realistic, 100% realistic.
Absolutely. Entirely realistic.
Where do you think it'll go? What are the boundaries, or are there no boundaries?
I really don't believe there are any boundaries to where this can go. I think there's obviously a lot of pressure out there, and there's changes in the way that content is being consumed by users. And so audiences these days, right now, they need to get back to cinemas because some of these films are just best experienced in cinemas.
Tony, what's your view on 3D technology? They were doing that in the cinema, then they had it in home TVs. Now the home TVs, you can't buy a 3D TV anymore. And I thought that was good technology and particularly at home. I've still got a 3D TV at home. Very practical, very interesting in the way that things come out at you from the screen. Good technology, but it didn't grab the public all that much.
Yeah, we've done a lot of work on 3D, and a lot of the projects that we work on ultimately find their way into 3D cinemas. I guess it's one of those things where exhibitors are trying to find ways to get audience into unique experiences. I think 3D will work better when you don't have to sit in a cinema or in front of a television and wear glasses. I find wearing glasses in a cinema, like I wear glasses all the time, and so I have to wear glasses on top of my glasses, and I find that annoying. It takes away from the experience. I'm perfectly happy sitting there and watching somebody tell me a story and being taken on that journey in a cinema and enjoying the immersive experience that I'm having with an audience. That for me is the optimal way to experience something like that, because we're all experiencing it together, and you get that feeling of people going along for the journey together with you.
Virtual reality, is that a great future in that?
I think the virtual reality stuff is going to be interesting, and immersive experiences are going to be interesting. And again, they're forms of entertainment. I feel like there will be increased prevalence of immersive experiences where they become like games, but imagine a hybrid of a narrative story where somebody's telling you a story, but you're actually inside it, and you're wearing your goggles and you're looking around inside that virtual space. And you're experiencing it as if you are there. I think that's probably something which is not with us yet, but which is possible.
And how do you connect with holography? Because that's, again, another technology that seems to have been developed and sidelined.
Well, I think it's been developed, but it can't be deployed at scale. I spoke to somebody about a holographic display last week where they were wanting to use a holographic display in an exhibition environment, but it was only capable of building a very small one. And I think that things like the Apple glasses and things that create really high fidelity immersive experiences will probably replace those kinds of opportunities until such time as we can have a holographic display in our home.
Yeah. But Disney was able to create that and do that effectively. So I remember going to Disneyland at Anaheim, and one of the underground, a lot of the stuff is underground over there, the holography was fantastic. And it must have been very expensive in the day, but it was very, very effective and useful.
Yeah, no, and lots of people have had sort of dalliances with those kinds of techniques, and they work in certain environments. You've also seen probably holographic recreations of performers that have passed away, like musicians who have passed away. There have been a number of holographic performances done, and they tend to be not true holographic, where you can't walk around behind them and have a look. They're more sort of views from the front with perspective shift.
What about that? What about that Aberama thing that is touring the world? Apparently, it's made $1 billion for the promoters.
I don't even know what it is. What is it?
Well, it's basically putting ABBA back together again.
Oh, that one. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, that I do know that one. That one was made by another company that does what we do, and that's essentially where they have had performers work in. Or I'm not sure if they're the actual performers, but they're synthetic performers using a technique called motion capture, where the performer wears a suit, and so everything that they move and everything that they do, and their head movements and face movements are captured and then replayed on a digital character. That's the kind of thing that will play really well in an immersive environment, because while it's playing on a screen or on a stage there, you could also conceivably step into that environment and look at it, walk around the outside and have a look. So recreating those kinds of mass community experiences, I think, will be interesting. But again, I still, like, if I was seeing a band or a musician, I'd still rather be in the room and see them in real life.
And you seem, Tony, your business is heading towards good, complete sensory experiences, from what I'm gathering, and enhancing all that. Now, there's another subject which is interesting, and loosely call it smell-o-vision. I mean, we don't want to be
Yes.
in a lift when someone passes wind, but in the sense that, if you've had a very picturesque forest scene, native forest, rainforest, the aromas and the smells and the feel could be enhanced by the sensations of another sense like smell. Do you see that gaining any traction in the near future? I know some people have tried that.
I think a few people have tried. There's all kinds of ways, and essentially film exhibitors have tried a number of ways to build more immersive experiences, to bring audiences back to the cinema. They've done it with wraparound screens. And if you look at something like IMAX, which is a gigantic format screen, those kinds of things are ways to bring people back in. I think smell, I don't know, personally, I don't really need that in my movie-going experience, and certainly not the elevator kind that you described before. But no, I'm happy going to the movies as they are, but a high-quality experience with good seating and great sound and an audience that's engaged in the same experience is just, for me, where that's at. I don't get enough of it personally. I wish I went to the cinema more, but everyone's lives are very busy.
Is that going to happen in the cinema, or is it going to be more in the home environment, in your view?
I still feel that, the home environment is good, but the idea that you're on the journey for a period of time and you're sort of trapped on the journey with everybody around you, there's something in that as well. At home, we're more likely to have a chat over the top or watch your phone or do something that distracts. We have a very nice TV at home, not a massive TV, but a lovely one and good sound. But it's still, like, the experience in the cinema, especially a high quality cinema, is a unique one that I really do think that many projects should be seen in that kind of environment.
It's an outing. It's an occasion.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a little expensive. It's definitely an expensive outing, and so that's probably something that people need to consider. Would more people go to the cinema if it didn't cost $20 or whatever a ticket costs these days?
Well, when you think of the contribution that you've made to the local economy and to innovation and all the rest of it, did you find, as you took this journey, did you find that the government understood what you were about and were prepared to say, well, hey, if this guy can compete with Hollywood and compete with the rest of the world, and he can base himself here in Adelaide, this is something we should be backing. Did you get any backing?
We did, actually.
Good.
We along the way, our state government and the federal government has been very supportive of what we've done and what our industry has done. And we're not here to be a charity. We're ultimately making an argument that we are an active contributor to the economy, because all those people that I described get haircuts and they send their kids to school and they help with the population outcomes that we want. And so our government has, over time, heard those arguments, and they've supported us in ways that have materially enabled us to grow this business. And it's both kinds of government. So we've had, multiple governments that we've crossed over in that, and we've found welcome ears in multiple forms of government. And it's a really easy case to make when you can say, well, this business didn't exist in 1995. This industry didn't exist in 1995. And now there are, 1,000 people in South Australia that are living and working here. They're getting haircuts and they're taking their kids to school and they're going out for dinner. And so they're a part of a vibrant creative economy. So, I think, and this is one of the things for us here in Adelaide, is that in Adelaide, we have an access to people here and a willingness by our government to engage with a business that's literally a pretty small business, but a willingness to engage on a level that you would not have necessarily in other places in Australia.
Oh, well,
so I think we've been lucky. This is the right home for us.
Well, we're proud of you, Tony Clark,
thank you.
Co-founder and CEO of Rising Sun Pictures. What are you working on at the moment? I mean, do you keep a day-to-day in touch with what's going on, or do you just sit on high and observe the books.
No, I sit on my throne and watch the books. Yes. No, I don't do anything of the sort. I go to work in jeans and a t-shirt usually, and I talk to our filmmakers. Most of the things that we're working on are typically kept under wraps, and so some I can't talk about. But we are working on the sequel to Mortal Kombat, which was filmed here. The original, the last Mortal Kombat film was filmed here in South Australia. We're working on the sequel to that now, which was filmed up in Queensland. So we've got a huge amount of team members working on that project.
Yeah.
We're also working on a couple of really interesting biopics, which have been originated out of the United States, which I can't talk to because they're secret, but suffice to say they will be amazing because they've got amazing filmmakers behind them and incredible subject matter. Boy, what else? We work on Marvel projects every year. We work on Lucasfilm projects, and so we worked on Ashoka and films like that. We're quite busy. 23 films every year, and I honestly, unfortunately, can't remember all of them because it's starting to. What's the one leaking out of my brain?
What's the one you're most proud of?
A long time ago, I'm proud of everything. And I think my pride is not so much the project as the way the team comes together to see a group of people come together to achieve. But if I have a project that was probably the most affecting, it was when we worked on Gravity, where we worked for probably a year and a half doing Gravity. And our moment came up towards the end of the film with a sequence we work on, because we didn't do the whole film. It was mostly done in London. But our moment came up towards the end of the film, and sitting in a theatre with an audience that was so connected to the journey of the protagonists in the film and was feeling every moment, and the release at the end of our sequence when the audience took a breath that she lived. And to feel that and to feel people cheer in an audience is just the most incredibly flattering and honouring experience for me.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. We're very proud of you, Tony. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
And thank you for giving us your valuable time. Very grateful.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for your time. It's good to hear. Good to talk.
Thanks a lot. It is wonderful, isn't it, that we could do all of that from right here in little old South Australia.
He sounds very grounded and very
yes.
inspirational.
Yeah.